Gentlemen, may I request? Okay, now please join me in welcoming the dignitaries on the dais. We have with us Dr. Dakshaben A. Vamdat, who is a former head of the department and HOD. Then our head of the department, Dr. Mahesh K. Dey and Dr. Sunil Shah. I welcome all invited guests, professors, the delegates, research scholars, intellectuals, ladies and gentlemen, to this valedictory function of two-day international conference on emerging trends in English studies, global perspective. Taking this program forward, I invite our head of the department, Dr. Mahesh Dey, for his welcome address. Let us felicitate our ma'am with a memento, university case, and an artwork. I request our head of the department, Dr. M.K. Dey, to welcome and felicitate Honorable Professor and former head, Dr. Dakshaben A. Vamdat. Okay. Okay. Thank you all. Now I invite our head of the department, Dr. Mahesh Dey, for the welcome speech. Okay.
So, good evening. So, the 2 days affair is over, about to be over. And I thought that this will be the rarest moment for me to invite my senior colleagues who were with us as our chief guest. And when I came to Surat in 1998, she was the person to invite me to the department as a younger colleague. And she said very categorically, I should not come to the department straight. I should come to her residence at Lal Darwaja and take food with her. And then she will bring me in a vehicle to the department. So that was my first welcome to the Department of English by my former head. So that's why I publicly acknowledge that Professor Dakshaben Vamdat is my Surti mom. So when my son was born there in Cuttack and I brought him to Surat as a little baby, she came to my quarters and I had thought of giving another name to my son, and she just took him in her lap and said, what is the name given to the boy? And I said, I have searched for Dipanshu along with the Rasi or something. Do is coming. So Dipanshu. She said, in Gujarat, it's too simple. So make it Diptanshu, Yuktakshar. So compounding. And then I said, to honor you, I put my son's name as Diptanshu, because by that time, there was no birth certificate was ready. So I immediately asked my brother-in-law, write the name Diptanshu for my son. So the name of my son in Surat was given by my former head. And so three of us, we three joined together, Rekha Ben and Amit Bhai and myself. And together, she welcomed us and the department. And we grew up as a new members of the family, and senior 3 members and junior 3 members. We have this kind of ladder. All the senior members were professors and readers. We were young colleagues. So we were naughty, and as I told you also last time, we were young and we are unmarried, about to experience life, but romantic literary. And so that's why she used to tell us, pamper us. All the time she used to say, whenever there is a function or a feast or any dinner, either RSC meeting or interview meeting or PhD viva or any kind of get together, So she used to tell all the time, Mahesh bhai, jamjo, gulab jamun badhare khao. So she will never say, miss this kind of statement. And between Rakesh bhai and myself, we had a competition. So how many gulab jamuns both of us can take? So she used to take care of all of us as her own family, and a lot of sweet memories are there. And this is a kind of, you can say, homecoming for her, I guess. And so I thought she would address us, give us her word blessings on this occasion. And this is the rarest moment for me to welcome her to the department. Ma'am, most welcome, and so be with us. And
Thank you, sir, for your inspirational words. Now I invite our loving and lovable Dr. Dakshaben Vamdar. She is like mother for me. For this valedictory address, or maybe you can say and speak here only.
You want to use podium? We also have. Okay.
I should be so.
yeah, you are.
You are.
Namaste. I think this has become a universal form of greeting after Corona. So I too might greet you by saying Namaste. Acha, nahi sambhale.
Little close. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I always treated the members of my department as members of my own family. And even when I have come here today, I feel I am with the members of my family. So the kind of nearness and bond that existed between us was very rare. And I could ask them to do anything for the department. And they could, or they had the privilege to ask me anything for the good of the department. So there was a kind of harmony prevailing among us so that we could really do some good things for our students, both MA students and research students. And what Mahesh Bhai said is, I think, a little exaggeration. I mean, anyone who comes for the first time to the department will be given at least this treatment. He should not feel a stranger, because I knew he was going to spend his life with us. And this was the minimum I could do for my own colleague. And he has never let me down. Likewise, Amit Bhai Prajapati and Rekha, I forget
Mekwan.
your, Rekha Mekwan, were also very young, unmarried. And Rekha, in fact, openly very often called me her mother, because she was living in a hostel away from her parents. And I said, whenever you feel like, you can come to my house and we can share a meal. So for a senior teacher to show concern for her colleagues is not something very rare. You always find that it is in our tradition. And I'm glad to say that I had no trouble with them. They never complained to anyone against other colleagues or against me. So as I said, we had an atmosphere of harmony, so we could accomplish many things. Now, should I say about the topic? Because this is the valedictory functions. You know, the topic on which you read papers, and there were about 85 papers, I am told, was emerging trends in English studies. So I just looked up Google yesterday. I thought, let me know what is happening to English studies. And I got one sentence which I shall repeat here. English studies is a study of English language, literature, and culture of the English speaking world. So the term global perspective, I think that's there in the topic. So you have to think of English not as a language of Britishers, but as a language used all over the world. I'll just say a few words about these three terms. It is a study of English language. What does the English language mean? Earlier, it was believed that it is a study of the structure of language, grammar, syntax, and formal categories, functional categories, noun, verb, adjective, etc. were formal categories, and subject, object, predicate, they were functional categories. This was what we learned by way of English language when we were students. Nowadays, in fact, since more than 100 years ago, it was felt by people that the spoken aspect of English was neglected all these years. And with the invention of radio and transistor and television and now whatnot, mobiles, it was necessary for people to comprehend spoken English and to speak English themselves for communication. So now in the 20th century, three terms were added to the study of English language. Number one, phonetics. Number two, pragmatics. And number three, semantics. I don't know how many of you learned phonetics, but phonetics is a study of sounds of language. If it is sounds of any one language, then you call it phonology. But phonetics is a study which focuses on sounds of language. And if you want to learn spoken English, you have to know what sounds are there in English. And of course, other features like stress and intonation and whatnot. The second term, which they said by way of study of language, was pragmatics. Now, I talked about functional categories like subject, object, complement. They were related to language. Here in pragmatics, we concentrate on the function of language in society. How do we communicate? The use of language in actual situations, not as sentences. They call them utterances. The difference between use and usage. That was pointed out by later linguists, especially by Dr. H.G. Widdowson and Professor G.N. Leach, who has written a book called A Communicative Grammar of English. So under pragmatics, then a lot of research was done and is being done. And if any one of you is interested in doing PhD in English, this will be a very good topic for you. Because how do we use English in different situations. I'll just give you one example from Gujarati so that you can understand it better. Hey, Dosa, I came better. Salute. This is one way of addressing an old person, which is not the correct way of addressing an elderly person. The normal way would be, Kaka, તમને કઈ થયું છે? તમને હું મૂકી જાઉં? That is a normal way. So if we use one instead of the other, we would become laughable, to say the least. Or મારે ઘરે જમવા આવજો. While talking to the Vice Chancellor, we have to say, આપને જમવા માટે નિમંત્રણ છે. You don't say ખાવા આવજો મારે ત્યાં. No, that is the social aspect, the functional aspect of language. In which situation, which words you will use, which language, which type of language you will use. So under this, you have register studies, social registers, and dialects, and what's not. I think this much about pragmatics is enough. People do talk about speech acts and all that. And then semantics. Semantics is a study of meaning of language. Now, normally we think that the meaning of words you will find in a dictionary. That is an old concept. Dictionary gives you a temporary kind of meaning, a convenient way. Actually, meaning is given by context. Shall I give you an example? I am going to the bank. Just this sentence, grammatically correct. And what will you understand by it? It could mean I am going to the bank to withdraw some money. Or it could mean I am going to the bank to have some fresh air. So unless you represent some context, meaning unless you complete the sentence with some other context, the meaning will be lost to you. So meaning is always related to context. That is a new way of understanding language. And then I'll give you another example, very famous, by Noam Chomsky. Colorful green ideas sleep. Does anyone know the last word? Colorful green ideas sleep furiously. This sentence is grammatically correct. Colorful green ideas is the subject, sleep is the verb, furiously is an adverb. But will you call it a correct sentence? No, because something is wrong. So that is where semantics comes into being. Without understanding semantics, that is which words go with which words, you should have a basic knowledge of all that. So mere dictionary use will not help you. Okay, that much about English language. I think I'm going very slowly. Let's come to the term literature, study of literature. English studies means study of literature. To begin with, literature here doesn't mean British literature. Literature of the English-speaking world. And literature in English is written in many parts of the world. And if we are students of English, it is our duty to know all these literatures also. In our department, we teach American literature, Canadian literature, Australian literature. We used to teach. Nowadays, I don't know what the situation is. And even Pakistani authors are chosen by us. Vapsi Sidhwa and Bangladeshi author Tasnima. So all these authors are selected by us. You won't believe, but we taught Chinese and Japanese poetry also, in translation, of course. But we studied haikus and tankas and all those forms, of course, translation of them into English. So at least we come to know how people think about life, how they experience different situations in life. So I mentioned only a few literatures, but you can think of Indian literature in English to begin with. And so many Indian authors have made their name, to begin with Salman Rushdie. He is a person of Indian origin. And then African literature, West Indian literature, some of them have got Nobel Prize also. Naipaul to begin with. Then Commonwealth literature, European literature, French literature, German literature, Russian literature. All this we have taught in the department. So when we think of English studies, we have to think of English literature in this new context. Otherwise, we will be doing injustice to ourselves. Then comparative literature also you can include. Many of my research students compared African literature with Indian literature. Then let's come to culture, study of culture of the English speaking world. Now, here I can say so many things, but time being limited, I'll just say, if you think of Indian literature, Dalit literature is a product of Indian culture. It's a newly developed kind of literature, but now Dalits also have become educated and articulate in voicing their grievances against society. And if we do not pay any attention to Dalits literature, I think we are doing injustice to them. Then women's writing in English. In the department, we had a compulsory paper on women's writing in English. You know, women are marginalized all over the world. Europe, America, Canada, wherever you go, women's salary is less than the salary of men for the same kind of work. All this we came to know through the novels that we taught our students. In that respect, India is better than these countries. Our women got the right to vote the moment we became independent. So legally speaking, women have better rights in India than in other countries. But who cares for the law? Domestic violence, etc., and of late rape and whatnot. Women had to write anonymously for fear that man will not read what they write. So either they wrote in the name of men, like George Eliot, or they wrote anonymously. It was called anonymous poetry, and it was mostly written by women. So in culture, these marginalized writers have a lot to say about the ill treatment which they have had. if we think of America, say Afro-American literature or Jewish literature, they are minorities in America. America being considered a very, very democratic nation. But even there, the situation of these marginalized groups is no better. So when we talk about culture, English studies, study of culture of English speaking people. That is all that I have to say about the topic which you had for this international conference. And I'm really grateful to all my younger colleagues who invited me to come here and to communicate with you. Thank God I should stand.
Thanks, ma'am, for your inspiring message, for your deep knowledge and full of enthusiasm and valuable for us. We are very happy to see you in the department. I invite participants' feedback for this conference. ये पहला करिए, पहले feedback.
Yeah.
हाँ पहले okay. So one from the guest and one from the student, or anybody can come voluntarily for the feedback of this conference.
Yes, you are welcome to ask me questions.
No, not you. No, I have feedback regarding the conference.
Oh,
Quickly, if somebody, any participant is there who wants to speak something, कोई खामियां रह गया जम्मा फूड क्वालिटी,
Come.
please, yeah, thank you.